You can do better, Mark. Like, oh, Mark. What the Mark?
You cannot kill off the inner critic. You cannot get rid of it. And the attempt to do those things is actually what feeds and fuels it. The inner critic can just be fucking brutal. The way that you talk to yourself can really impact and sometimes damage the way that you connect and relate to other people.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
I'm Mark, and this is the Inner Critic Practice with Connor Beaton. Connor walked us through a journaling practice to help us identify kind of where this voice in your head comes from and what we can do about it and how can we actually use it to make our lives better as opposed to critiquing us all the time.
I think the inner critic gets a bit of a bad rap, but essentially the inner critic is the voice inside of your head that is constantly judging everything that you do, criticizing everything that you do, whether you like it or not. The steps to the inner critic practice are pretty straightforward. You want to write out everything in as much detail, painstakingly, that the inner critic says to you internally. You want to see, who does that remind you of? So where did it actually come from? Get to the origins of it. Next is repurposing the inner critic, because the inner critic is like a loyal soldier, right? It wants a mission, it wants a purpose. So you want to repurpose that to be something that is more helpful, more generative. And then lastly is the autocorrect. So this is where real time, you set the boundary and you autocorrect what the inner critic is saying. Just grab a pen and paper and write out as much as you possibly can of what your inner critic says to you on a daily basis. The 3 questions that can really help you start your journaling practice with the inner critic are, when I fail, my inner critic says. When I get things wrong, what my inner critic says is. And the big one, when I fail or get things wrong with others, when I disappoint others, my inner critic says, and then just fill in the blank. For a lot of guys, the way that they talk to themselves is really harsh, really demeaning, sometimes even almost verbally abusive. When you start to work with this part of you, you can adjust the way that you speak to yourself. You'll have a deeper level of self-compassion, and you'll even have a deeper level of being able to love and appreciate who you are. If you are doing this exercise with somebody, what you would want to do right now is you'd want to read out loud what your inner critic says to you.
That was stupid. Why did you do that? They won't like you anymore. They won't want to be friends with you anymore.
Just as you talk about some of that stuff, what happens internally? What do you experience?
I think it feels familiar. Like it's something that I know that I've said to myself for a long time. There's something normal about hearing those things because I've said them to myself for so long. I feel annoyed. Like my jaw gets tight and I feel like I want to clench.
How did it feel having people there witnessing your inner critic?
Felt incredibly vulnerable knowing that we're putting these out on YouTube, out on social media, and to have that inner voice in my head be shared so widely was something that it was screaming at me, don't do this, you don't want to do this, you don't want to put it out there. And through the work now in the weeks since we filmed this practice, I'm not hearing it as much right now, which is really wonderful.
The majority of men, their inner critic is a kind of legacy from somebody in their life that was very critical of them in their childhood. A parent, a caregiver, a coach who would withhold love and care and attention unless they performed properly.
This feels like the kids on the playground, not being accepted, not belonging in the group. Even if people didn't react, I think that was stupid and why did you do that?
The problem for most guys is that the inner critic is using shame to try and motivate them. I call it dark motivation. And this can have a really damaging impact on your sense of self-worth, self-value, and self-confidence.
I think the inner critic causes massive disconnection with me internally in my relationship. A great example is my wife will ask for space. In my head, I will just be basically boiling over. I will choose to talk with her about something that I know it's not the right time to talk about it. And then I'll say why did you do that, Mark? I've basically gone against what I knew was in my best interest at the time. Right. And then I will criticize myself for having done that.
Would you say that there's anxiousness around giving her space?
Yes, that is a repeating
cycle.
Yeah, cycle and loop within the relationship.
What's the connection between that anxiousness and your inner critic?
The belonging was about friendship and people wanting to be with me, and so her asking for space is on some level back at the playground Like, does she want to be with me?
Yeah, so it activates the anxiousness, and then the anxiousness causes you to make a decision that then activates the inner critic. Remember, your inner critic is like a loyal soldier. It's trying to support you. It's just doing it in the wrong way. And so you need to give it a new mission, like helping you develop a deeper sense of confidence or self-validation. So you give your inner critic that mission. For me, I give it the mission of helping me to develop self-validation and self-appreciation. How is it going to support and serve you?
I think it's gratitude was the first thing that came to mind. Like, so instead of they won't like you anymore, maybe it's like, thanks for like even showing up.
Great. So like repurposing it as gratitude, it really becomes something that instead of attacking us and disconnecting us from the relationships that we're in, it can actually become a vehicle for connection where you can see your worth, you can see your value.
The big difference I felt for myself is that I actually have my inner critic speaking up a little bit less, and when it does, I can recognize it more quickly and actually repurpose it, be a bit more productive with that interior dialogue so that it's helping me achieve the things I want to do instead of standing in my way.
Every man at some point needs to set some boundaries with his inner critic. It's not enough to just do this exercise and be like, I'm good, I'm done. You're gonna have to practice auto-correcting the inner critic every time it pops up. We need to be able to practice saying like, enough. And that's the boundary. And we can say it internally, we can say it out loud. So instead of saying, you're so dumb, what's wrong with you? You say something along the lines of, you did a good job, you made an effort, thank you so much, and I'm gonna celebrate the win. So we actually autocorrect real time in the moment by setting the boundary, saying enough, and then reaffirming what it is that we really want. So what would that sound like?
Just like, enough, like I can trust you. It feels very straightforward and something that's like just easy to do in the moment. This isn't something where we have to shout it from the rooftops to our friends and say like, hey guys, I fixed my inner critic.
You can never give other people what you're not willing to give to yourself, and you can never receive from other people what you're not willing to give to yourself. So when we actually bring the inner critic into being on our side instead of against us, instead of us disconnecting from other people, it helps us to actually more deeply connect to them. Practice the mission that you're orienting it or repurposing it towards. And every single time it comes up, it's like, that's your chance to practice gratitude. And you sort of teach that inner critic who's been working against you for decades to start to work with you and for you.
So tell me, how was the practice for you?
It was actually really insightful because I didn't know just how much the inner critic was going to be appearing in my head. It's something where it was so ingrained. I was quite surprised to find out how often it was speaking to me.
I've actually noticed in the last few weeks, the tell of you is like you'll be a oh Mark, like, and you haven't been saying that as much.
I did let it slip once, but I caught myself right away. I said, there's the inner critic, and I actually forgave myself for it.
A lot of guys find that they have more assertiveness, more directness, and that serves them very, very well. They have a better access to not aggressiveness, violence, but actually like clean anger that helps them set some boundaries and say no to things that they should say no to. It's trying to support you in getting to where you're wanting to go. It's just been assigned the wrong mission. And so once you repurpose it, it's on a better mission and it's gonna help you get there. The benefits of the defeating the inner critic practice are numerous. One of them is a much deeper way of connecting with others, the ability to actually celebrate yourself. And lastly is a much deeper sense of self-worth and confidence.
Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, and we look forward to hearing how it goes for you. Share in the comments, any of the changes or shifts that you see, and really get into it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be sending you a super powerful practice again next week.